Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hi, it's Jackie Cation. Welcome to the Dork Forest. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com. It is February, and in February, we have a ranger of the Dork Forest who emailed me and said, would you be willing to advertise my book? And I said, well, I'm going to have to read your book to see if I want to advertise your book. And I read it, and it was good. So yes, I said to Jeff Fullmer, I will advertise your book. And it is called Firebird Jim, and it is on Amazon Kindle for 99 cents. And it is part of a series. So it's a good book. I liked it. It kind of reminded me of comic book episodic because it's episodic, and I recommend you read it because I liked it. And if you are a ranger of the Dork Forest and think that I might want to read your thing and advertise that, you can be a supporter and an advertiser on the Dork Forest, much like Jeff Fullmer of Firebird Jim, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I'm waiting for the next installment. So, go to Amazon, get yourself a Kindle, and hook it up. The other thing I should tell you before we start the great show is allthingscomedy.com. That's the podcast network I'm part of. And Jen Kirkman just started her podcast over there. She's hilarious. She was on the podcast talking ghosts and UFO about a year or so ago. Jen Kirkman, Aaron Foley, Baron Vaughn, Bill Burr, Al Madrigal, a lot of great podcasts over there at allthingscomedy.com. Let's get into it. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I am sitting here with Josh Gondelman, New York City stand-up comic, and friend of Mike Kaplan. Is that who told me that who
I
was
think
the
it was
one?
Mike. Yeah,
Mike Kaplan, good egg.
Good guy.
He's the guy who came up with the Daniel Dad Lewis. I'm reading Daniel Day-Lewis's dad's Pulp Fiction.
Oh, okay.
And I couldn't remember his name, and Mike said, "Is it Daniel Dad Lewis?" And so Josh Gondelman of @JoshGondelman on Twitter and JoshGondelman.com, you said that your dorkdom is that you love the Coen brothers movies.
I just love them, and I feel like it makes me a very, like, the things I love make me a very specific kind of white guy who wears a very specific kind of glasses and cardigan, but, like, I can't get away from it. I feel like the Coen brothers they're like what Wes Anderson is for wasps, the Coen brothers is for Jews.
Wow. Let me tell you that there are buildings full of things that I don't know. And I know some things about almost everything.
Okay.
And I have not, the last Coen brothers movie I went and saw in the theater was Fargo, and I had to walk out.
Really?
Too dark.
Oh, super dark. Yeah.
So dark. And I saw it in Minneapolis, and I'm a Minneapolis comic. And so, matter of fact, most of Minneapolis is like, all crepes, we don't talk like that. And it was so classically in the tone of voice that they were saying that they did not.
Yeah, I'm from, I started in Boston. I'm from the Boston area, and they're exactly the opposite about the accent. Like, yeah, we sound just like Good Will Hunting. Yeah, we're all smart janitors.
Right. We sound exactly like that. I don't, particularly right now. But no, that's exactly the accent that we have. And you're like, but you're not doing it right now.
Yeah, we're not. That's like what you sound like. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, we do. I get it like in traffic or watching sports.
Right, when you get excited.
Yeah.
We all slip into that accent of whatever.
Because I'm just putting on this mask of like socially acceptable speech.
Right, I class it up when I'm out in public, but when I'm not, it's very South Milwaukee, all cripes, throw the baby down the stairs a cookie. My grammar even goes out the door. And when I get excited. So, yeah, because I'm from sort of a little factory town in Wisconsin. So, okay, so you're from Boston. Before we get into it, allow me to tell you my favorite movie of 2013.
Please.
The Heat.
Loved The Heat.
Did you see The Heat?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
loved it.
So great.
It was so great.
It was the cussiest, funniest, no Miranda being read to anyone.
Oh, yeah.
Greatest cop buddy movie since Midnight Run for me. And
it was funny on like, it clicked on like the scene where Melissa McCarthy was like wriggling through the windows was just that super funny physical comedy.
Right.
And the dialogue was so sharp.
That's it, exactly. I was trying to explain that to frickin' Keith and the girl the other day, and they were like, "That movie sucks." It was one fat joke after.
Crazy.
That's what I thought.
Because I felt like if it were all like, look at how she moves like a thick person, I'd be like, that's not a good movie. But the fact that it was like a couple, right? Because it is funny to watch someone struggle through an open car window,
right?
But it's also funny that she's just like super ballsy and has just a roommate.
You nailed it
a room full of guns.
with the fact that there's a physical comedy and there's the snappy
it was
dialogue.
So sharp. Bill Burr was so funny.
Bill Burr and distracting to see people and then you're like, oh, that's him acting. Look at him act.
My girlfriend gets so mad when I point out people I know in movies.
Because she's trying to live in another world.
Yeah, she also, will sometimes know of her. We were both like, oh, Chris Gethard, and that was fine.
Right.
And he was credited as himself, which is very funny.
That is funny.
But my friend Tony V, who's like an incredible Boston comedian, was the guy at the police station where they come in the first time, and he's like, "Oh, why you so nice, lady?" or whatever.
Right. Oh yeah. He says something nice to her, and she's like, "Yeah, it's a great day. It's a great." She just beats the shit out of him verbally.
And so I was like, Tony V, which like, when you point out what I'm like, is that Javier Bardem? It's like, oh, maybe that is Javier Bardem. But when I say Tony V to my girlfriend, that doesn't mean that might not even be the name of a person. Right.
You're like, oh, who is that? Is that somebody that was a barback at DeSalvo's in 1987? What's happening? And which is a real thing, the barback at the DeSalvo's. Anyway, so Coen brothers, did you see Simple? Blood Simple?
That's one of.
Wasn't that their first big one?
It was their first. I think it was their first one.
Okay.
I missed that. I'm trying to like get my hands on it. I didn't see Lady Killers.
Okay. I saw Lady Killers. Wait, wasn't that a remake?
Yeah, it was like Tom Hanks was in it.
It didn't make any sense that because parts of it were great, and I quote it all the. I have seen more Coen Brothers movies than I think I have. Yeah, you didn't see Lady Killers.
I missed Lady Killers, and I missed, I think I was going through some stuff, and I didn't go see A Simple Man when it came out.
Okay.
Because that one's, or Serious Man, I'm sorry.
Serious Man.
That Simple Man, I think, or Single Man came out at around the same time.
Because there's dozens, they've probably done
so
like
movies.
18 movies, right? Doesn't that sound about right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people do a little research. Not me. Me. I was like, send me a picture. And so you did. But Lady Killers, they're listening. For some reason, they updated it. Yeah. But they only updated a third of it.
Okay.
Which made it confusing.
This is all like steampunky or not steampunk.
It was, but it was like 60s fedora kind of situation. And then the black character, was listening to hip hop, and the lady, the religious lady who was in charge of their bed and breakfast or wherever they stayed at so they could do their heist. Yep. She was an older black lady who was super religious, and the young black con man was listening to I Left My Wallet in El Segundo.
Sure.
And at one point she goes, "Left your wallet in El Segundo." And so I quote that all the time for no reason.
It's funny.
Because I didn't particularly enjoy the movie. I was like, that's a weird, because the way they did it was so, it was jarring.
I guess, though, if you're going to update something from the 60s, maybe bring race relations up to speed.
Right.
It's a whole other kettle of fish if they're like, we're bringing this black guy on a heist. And they're like, actually, this heist is whites only.
This is a whites only heist. And, use that bubbler. I said bubbler. Anyway.
So that's a Wisconsin and Massachusetts thing. And
you say bubbler?
I say bubbler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To everyone. So in college, a bubbler was a specific kind of marijuana smoking apparatus.
Oh, hello. Like a pipe? Like a water pipe?
Yeah, water pipe.
Yeah. A bong.
Yeah. If you will.
If you will. I believe the kids are calling it a bong these days.
I tweeted it.
But they called it a bubbler.
A bubbler.
Yeah.
And, water fountain bubbler. For me, that's what I grew up with. And I think I said it in New York, because it's one of those things, sometimes you don't realize things are regional till you're outside your region. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I just grew up steeped in this.
Right.
So I was like, oh yeah, is there like a bubbler I could use? It was like a restaurant or
out in public somewhere.
Or a park. And my friend was like, bubbler, that doesn't mean anything. And so I tweeted it. I was like, please, people from Massachusetts, back up
Back
what a
me up.
bubbler is.
Yeah.
And people were all over it. And like one of the
Because it's almost regional in Massachusetts and Wisconsin, too.
Yes.
Like, as you go 150 miles in a different direction from South Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it's a water fountain.
Yeah. Or in Western Massachusetts, you go out to Northampton, they're like, actually, it's an equal opportunity, gender neutral water delivery device.
Well, last night I was at the Comedy Cellar, and I said I was from Wisconsin, and some guy in the second row, I'm doing set list, first of all, which is not interactive. You hush and be proud that I can come up with anything funny with the set list that I've been given.
Seems like a stressful show.
It's a super fun show. And the audience is usually incredibly supportive because they know that you're trying to make up jokes on the minute. And if it isn't all just horrible, that's a win.
You need a generous
a generous, kind audience. And for the most part, these people were. But they were, I said I was from Wisconsin. Some guy booed me. And I was like, really? This far away? What cultural mecca do you hail from,
Seriously.
buddy? And he was from Chicago. And in Chicago, they don't call it a bubbler. They call it a water fountain, which is only 90 miles away from Milwaukee. And I was like, if Chicago's so cool, why would you be on your high horse about it? What do you care?
Yeah.
If it's so cool, what do you care about my pissant little state? And they bury their dead in Wisconsin. That's all they do. The mob just drives their dead over and dumps it in a cranberry bog, and then we sail it to Ocean Spray.
I can't believe you thought Fargo was too dark.
Right. Oh, I have said this before. I would rather live through open water than watch open water.
Okay. I feel that.
Or die by means of open water.
I always feel like I would die. Like, you know how there's all those movies like 127 hours?
Oh, yeah.
That would be called like 6 hours, and then Josh just loses it, if that were me. Or like zombie movies. I always feel like, why not join up with the zombies?
Right, you're like, no, bite me.
Yeah, they seem like they got a thing going.
They got a purpose. They got a reason to to not live.
Yeah, a reason to unlive. and so
your brains are good.
Yeah, and it's like, well, what do I have going on that's going to be useful in this zombie world? Like,
right.
I might as well. I'm no good with a shotgun or a baseball bat with a nail through it.
Right.
I might as well just like join up and.
But do you ever have those dreams of being the hero? Like all of a sudden, like remember that woman in Atlanta who talked down that guy?
That I feel like I could do better.
Right, because it's words.
It's words. I'm a nurturer.
Right.
I used to teach preschool. That was like my job. Yeah. So like, I feel like that's in my wheelhouse, but like fighting horror beasts.
Right, like the La Femme Nikita thing that I would love to be, I am not.
Yeah.
But someone comes in with a gun, I'm like, hey man, having a bad day?
Right.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's not.
I think
that isn't going to help, brother.
That's where I would shine. But like in any physical conflict, even if that was like to defeat the zombie apocalypse, all you have to do is dunk on a 9-foot rim, I'd be like, humanity is screwed.
We're all screwed. Did you see World's End?
I did.
That made me laugh because the only reason that guy stopped drinking was because he affected the entire planet.
Yeah, he destroyed.
Yeah, he had to destroy the entire world before he was like, oh no, this is my bottom. And then I'm going to order water.
Yeah.
And
that is the bottomist.
That is the bottomist. That is like the greatest ego in the world. He's like, no, I would have to destroy the entire earth before I decided.
Imagine what is it? Step 4 in A? I'm not super well versed, but where you have to apologize and take inventory.
I believe it is step 9. It is 8. You make the list, and 9 you go around and talk to people.
That's a long list of apologies.
Right, 7.5 billion people.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people. And but if he's lucky, most of them are dead because he's ruined the earth.
It down to a couple
to 3.5 billion. And just think. And okay, so let me let you talk about the Big Lebowski. Not the Big Lebowski, but so you've seen. So the 3 you haven't seen, to your knowledge.
I would say A Serious Man,
Blood Simple,
Lady Killers.
And Lady
but
Killers.
I think the rest of it I've done a pretty comprehensive job, and I'm trying to even see those 3, even though I've heard Lady Killers was not super worth it.
Right. I think my favorite one was Miller's Crossing.
Miller's Crossing is so good. I just saw that because it was going off Netflix on January 1st.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not a big watcher of things by myself. Like I really I'm
you like
a listener.
a social?
I'm social. Yeah. Like I'll go to the movies or I'll watch a movie with friends, but normally, if I'm just on my own, I'll be working or like screwing around on like Twitter or listening to things. I'm a big listener.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to podcasts or music?
I do. I listen to podcasts,
okay.
music. I'll listen. I prefer if someone I love has a comedy special come out, I would prefer generally to listen to it than to watch it. Usually I'll do both.
Please do that when mine comes out.
Oh, yeah?
I just recorded it, and I have had the hardest time watching myself do stand-up comedy. But I listened to all 5 sets, and I'm like, because eventually when you listen to something, you're like, no, that's what I sound like. I can't, and the podcast, I listen to my voice all the time, so I don't care anymore what I sound like. But I care what I look like.
Yeah. Or, like, I'll think I'm such a bad actor. So if I'm on stage and in my head, I'm doing like this grand sweeping gesture that convey, but in like reality, I'm like pointing with half of my, like a crooked index finger. And that's all I'm doing. I'm like, ugh, I've got nothing going on.
So do you rip the audio, or do you just have it playing in the background?
I'll buy it as an album usually and like listen to it on the train or like if I'm driving somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
On the train is weird because I'm a laugher. I try not to be withholding about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'll laugh like a lunatic.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but I listen to a lot of music too.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about some, what do you like about the Coen brothers? You said that it's crack for Jews.
Yeah, it's Jew crack.
All right.
It's just, I like the snappiness of the dialogue.
Yeah.
And I like that everything feels intentional. Like a lot of movies, I think you kind of see and you kind of, it's like, well, I get that they did it on purpose, but I think they didn't consider how to do it the best or most interestingly. Like all the characters are interesting. Right.
Even the background characters. Just the well-craftedness of it.
Yeah. It's so, there's so much to it and everything feels like it's how they wanted it to be.
Right. And they put attention into the details kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The attention to detail is really nice. Like their period movies look nice. And nice. That's such an understatement.
Right. But it's really thorough. It's true. When I think about them, they are really, really thorough. Because Miller's Crossing, that one felt like the best. Because I've never been able to, like, I watched The Godfather and I was like, oh, this isn't going to end well. Mm-hmm. And it's more of a caricature.
Yeah.
And it's more of a they've romanticized this thing. Even Goodfellas, it's a romantic version of the mob.
Right.
Miller's Crossing feels like what the mob is.
Yeah, it's petty.
And just super petty and super horrible.
Yeah. And it's like,
these are not good people.
No, they're not nice. They're hopeless, right? It's like, you get from the beginning, I mean, except for the very, very beginning where like Gabriel Byrne is like very charming.
Yeah.
Like, from 15 minutes in, you're like, this is hopeless.
Right. You can tell that they're charmed. They can be charming and they are very smart. But for the most part, their personal lives are a disaster.
Yeah.
Their professional lives are a disaster. And the choices they make are the wrong choices.
Yeah. They're arrogant and they're,
and they can't seem to see any of it.
It's so great, but it's also
and they nail it.
Funny.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The dialogue is so snappy without feeling like it's pulpy without feeling like, all right, come on.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't feel caricature-y.
No.
But they are saying things that people have caricaturized in so many ways, where you're like, no, I see that guy would actually say that.
Yeah.
And think himself either very clever or dead serious, where he's not even kidding.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna push your face in, and he's genuinely thinking, I'm gonna push your face in.
Yeah. Right. It's there, and the dialogue is like vivid.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's vivid and not cliche. Or I think you don't even realize what a cliche is until you see someone doing a different thing.
Right.
Like you don't realize that it's cliche to say like, I'm gonna knock your socks off, right? Like that's an expression. But then if somebody says like, I'm going to do this so your feet don't even touch the ground for a week. You're like, oh, that's a more interesting way to say the same thing.
Right. And it's downright chilling, I mean, and it is funny, but the way they do things are so real and serious that it doesn't feel like Midnight Run is one of my favorite movies of all times. It's De Niro and Grodin, and it's a comedy movie, and there's a mob guy in it.
Yeah.
And he says stuff like, I got to take this pencil and stick it in your neck. And he's not kidding.
Right.
And he nails the line, but you laugh because you're like, no, I think that guy would actually, if no one was watching, stick a pencil in somebody's neck.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I just love that about that. And I think like it's so grounded and you like feel it. Like I just saw Inside Llewyn Davis. And
Yeah.
that's another movie.
I didn't see that. That was, now the premise of that one was?
He is, it's this, Oscar Isaac, who's really
Okay.
great and plays a folk singer in the 60s.
Right. Oh,
in,
right.
like downtown New York folk scene, like West Village or Greenwich Village. I always conflate the two.
Right.
But he is just kind of this guy that's not gonna make it, and he's just kind of alternately trying and not trying. And again, his personal life is a disaster, and it would be easy to make it kind of a broad comedy about a guy that stinks and
Who
keeps
isn't good
trying.
at folk trying and wouldn't stop trying.
Or easy to make it this inspirational tale of a guy who tries and overcomes. But one thing I really like about the Coen brothers also is they write, some people make sad movies. They
Yeah.
make tragedies.
Which is one of the reasons why I have a hard time watching them, because I know tragic people.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, I know that guy. I don't want to watch that guy make the same choices
that you've seen.
and well acted and beautifully projected, super believable.
Just
And I'm
like Dave did.
I don't know if you ever met my buddy, Paul, but he's living that, and
Yeah.
that's sad for me.
Inside Llewyn Davis, I mean, it reminded me
of a lot of comics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, I've talked with a lot of friends about it, and everyone kind of pulled a different thing about it. But for me, it was a real bummer. And for me, it was about the idea of being good and not being good enough. And
Right.
that is like a real horror for me.
Oh, it's terrifying.
That idea of like, you can keep getting positive feedback. You can have shows that go well and, an amount of critical
It's
acclaim.
that weird middle ground where, I mean, there's something in it where, because I talk to myself a lot about,
Yeah.
we all do. We all have the soundtrack of, you're not wasting your time. You're not wasting your time.
Yeah.
And I wonder about, like, there's guys that I've seen been doing stand-up comedy for 20 years,
Yeah.
15, 20 years, who have never gotten better. And they are horrible. And they continue to do stand-up comedy, and you're like, why do they continue to do stand-up comedy when they're so bad? And you're like, because the audience is polite, but they get off stage and they've gotten any reaction, and they're like, that went well. And you're like, but it didn't. They can't see it.
But see, to me, that's less scary. Like the idea of
That would actually be funny and horrible.
right. And you're to be bad at stand-up comedy or bad at folk music forever, but just be like, I'm crushing it. That to me is like, there's almost a sweetness.
Yeah.
And like, you're really doing it for the love of the game. Because
Right.
if you don't have
That's
a
true.
career and you don't have, nothing's getting better, you're just doing open mics forever and you're like, I feel like I'm getting it, and you're not.
Right.
Who cares?
Right, I suppose. Yeah, that's an excellent attitude toward it, because I get super, I'm just like, because I know, there's part of you that wants to go, dude, you got to try something else.
Yeah.
Maybe because I always wonder, what are they really, really good at?
Right.
Like, are they the best gardener they've
they're
never tried
exploring
it? And so,
When I was I'm sorry to interrupt.
No.
When I was in high school, I remember I was at play rehearsal, and my friend Liz came in. I was sitting in the band practice room, and my friend Liz comes in and sits at the piano and just kind of hammers on it for like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
No melody.
Right.
And no chords, and just stands up and goes, well, I guess I'm not a prodigy, and walks out.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And I feel like, it's great to know that. And so
That is hilarious.
It's so funny to me.
Right. So what they don't do, because with Llewelyn, I mean, that makes sense. That I'm glad that they didn't do that, where they made it this, where he was okay. Because the thing is that is the true tragedy, is when you're pretty good at it, but you're not great at it.
That was like, it was painful, because he would do shows and it would go well. And even as an audience member, you're like, in a theater, you're like, I enjoy this song, and you're supposed to, right? Like,
right.
He's presented as a guy who's playing an enjoyable song.
Yeah.
And he doesn't make it. And
that is just heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking. And he's just kind of like told, like, oh, this isn't really, I don't see a lot of money in this. Like people,
Right.
record executives.
Yeah.
But he
they can't see what to do with him.
Yeah.
Which is a classic sort of industry kind of thing to say. You're like, no, you're really good at this, but I don't know what to do with you.
And, it's like, well,
and you're like, but isn't that your job?
This. Right. My job is to be good at this.
Right. My job is to do the thing that I can do. Your job is to find out how to monetize this. And you made up the word fucking monetize. And,
right.
So I hate you. And there was a guy, and I'm sure it's happened in every region in the country, but he used to send out, to submit to do stand-up comedy on the road, you used to have to send tape, VHS tape. And this guy worked in, John Evans is his name, and he's a great comic.
Oh, yeah, super funny.
Oh, do you know that guy?
I don't know him personally, but I know of him.
But you've seen him.
Yeah.
And he's a great comic, and he's really funny. But he would have these, and they were private showings of the worst tapes.
Oh, you know what? I learned about this. I did a festival with Andy Ritchie, who used to work with John, and
both Minneapolis comics, and both super funny, but have those super weird streak of oh, you should see this guy, he's horrible. Or they would tape their sets in the basement of them just talking and trying the material, and I was like, and I'm so that I was never willing to watch those tapes because I was like, you guys, this feels super mean. And granted, but then Dave Mordahl, another guy who's on Last Comic Standing first season, he's a Minneapolis comic as well. He says stuff to those guys, who have been doing it for 15 years. He's like, you gotta stop doing it.
Oh, wow.
You're driving me crazy. You've never gotten better. But he could, because it's none of his business, right? Granted, it's his show. Just don't let him go up in your show. But they get to do whatever. I mean, you can do whatever your art is forever, and no one gives a shit.
And I kind of like that. I like in comedy, if someone's real bad, just let them toil in obscurity.
Right.
But
if they're having a good time.
Yes. Because they're not hurting anyone.
This is a great attitude. I like this attitude, Josh Gondelman.
Thank you.
And,
I try to be and I'm a super positive person in general, but that movie bummed me out super hard because again, it wasn't about someone who stinks and isn't going to make it.
Right.
I just that's one of my biggest professional fear is being good enough that people that know me believe in me. Yeah. But not good enough that I make anything of myself.
Right.
And I really feel like that is a bad attitude.
You have to try to let that attitude go because that'll eat you up too.
Yeah, because I want to be.
But that fear's real, and you got to fight bitterness every day at what other people are getting, and you're like, guess what? I was never going to go out for the same thing Mike Birbiglia's doing. Right. It turns out he and I are not the same comic,
right?
And so
exactly right.
But I still think it sometimes. But I got to squash it or release it.
I was on an audition last night, and I had to. I'm usually pretty good at not being bitter. I legit walked into the room and was like, "Who's on this audition?" And it was a lot of friends. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, great! I'm so excited!" And these people are not competing with me,
right?
Because it's if they want someone like this person, they'll take someone like this person.
Yeah.
If they want someone like this person, they'll take someone like this person.
And if they want me,
they'll take me. Except I was standing next to my friend Jim Tews, who's a super funny comedian, and we both were, white guys, thick glasses, gray cardigans, pretty traditional joke tellers. And I was like, as much as Jim,
I love that guy to death.
Yeah, but where we are each other's competition in this moment.
And you're like, and there's nothing to be done. And
and I rooted for him. I wasn't like, I hope Jim Bob. I've gotten to a point where I feel confident in my own ability enough that I can be like, I'm going to do well. I hope everyone else does well. And then let them choose.
Let the chips fall where they may.
Let the chips fall. Because all I want is for me to do well. And also for my friends to do well. Yeah. But I'm done rooting to do the best or for people to do poorly. Yeah. Yeah, that does. I mean, that's not going to help in any way except for to mess with your own head. It's terrible. Right. The random fears, and it's a trained skill is to let that fear go. Mm-hmm. And it's a trained skill to not get bitter. And you constantly have to remind yourself. And to appreciate what you have. Right. That's the gratefulness. The best thing. Some people don't get to do any of this at all. No, totally. I get to do the most fun stuff. And every year I try to, not at a specific time, but every year if I'm feeling a little not Yom Kippur? Yom Kippur is a great time to do that.
Yeah, it would be a perfect time to do that, wouldn't it?
I try to I use that less for professional stuff and more for like personal stuff. And
Okay.
because I'm not religious at all, but Yom Kippur I feel like is a great.
It's the Easter and Christmas of Judaism.
It is. It's big.
And there's no reason not to check in with yourself.
It's Jupiter Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, Jupiter Bowl.
Daniel Dad Lewis.
Okay, Daniel Dad. Is that a Mike Kaplan joke as well?
It's like a Mike Kaplan joke.
It is like a Mike Kaplan joke.
And so it's a great time. I usually check in with my parents and friends of mine that I feel like I had any kind of rift with over the year. And
right, make sure you're on good,
we're on good
standing.
Terms. And it's a nice time to do that. But yeah, it's also like to look back at the year and be like, and think career-wise, like I got to do stuff this year that I've never gotten to do before.
Right.
And that I couldn't have imagined doing last year. So as much as, I have this audition, maybe it comes through, maybe it doesn't. I have been submitting writing packets. Maybe they come through, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
But last year I got to do my first TV writing thing, and it was a little one,
Yep.
but it was great.
And it was real.
And it was real, and it
Yeah.
happened. And I didn't do it the year before, and it's like a dream. So
Yeah.
I'm literally living my dream, and I should stop
right. What's the
grabbing
next
for
thing?
more.
Or
Yeah.
what's the, why don't I have that thing or whatever? So, but that's one of the, maybe that's why the Coen brothers are so hard for me, because it's like looking in a mirror of different parts of my soul.
Yeah.
But you know what I've never seen?
Which?
The Big Lebowski. People love The Big Lebowski.
It's great. I'm done proselytizing about it.
Right.
Because
The Dork Forest, you should do it one more time. Proselytize for
So
it.
a great thing. Sorry, I don't mean. I'm coming on your podcast, and I will not talk about.
I will not talk about the thing I love.
I really like. I thought I was a little over it.
Yeah.
'Cause I loved it. I saw it when I was young when it came out.
Right.
And I didn't see it in theaters, but I remember I had to get the video store across the street was managed by my neighbor.
Okay.
So some people could kind of get away with renting rated R movies when they were underage. I had to bring a note from my parents.
Right. You're super young looking now.
Thank
Right.
you. I had an ex-girlfriend who used to call me the world's oldest young man because I'm just kind of like a bald, cranky dude. Not cranky, but just like, I like to stay in.
Right. Oh, sure. You're a homebody.
I'm a homebody.
But you're wearing orange shoes.
I'm
Life
wearing
is
orange
good.
shoes. Yeah, it is good. They aren't. I'll get into orange shoes later if we have time. But so I remember bringing a note from my parents that said Josh is allowed to rent The Big Lebowski on VHS.
Yes.
And I rented it, and my roommates and I, or my roommates, I was 13. My friends and I watched it on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
As when 98 was turning into 99, and we were just we don't understand literally what's happening in this movie, but it is a joy to watch.
Right.
And the characters were so vivid, and it was kind of like an introduction. There was sex and crime, but it wasn't an off-putting amount for it. It was just a kind of an exciting, fun, funny, and I was a squeamish kid, but this was just I remember being this is what it's about.
Okay.
And then we had to watch it again very soon thereafter to even try to understand, because there are major plot holes because it's based on a Raymond Chandler story, The Big Sleep, with major plot holes. There's a story.
It's based on The Big Sleep?
Yeah.
I've read The Big Sleep.
Yeah. So it's like a stoner
version of The Big Sleep. Man, I love the Coen brothers now.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's so great. And it's super loosely adapted.
Yeah.
But there's a gigantic, I forget what it is because I've seen the movie so many times.
I've seen parts of it a dozen times trying to go, all right, get into it. People want it.
It doesn't.
But now this Big Sleep thing, this could help a great deal.
If you watch it under that lens, because I love that kind of noir stuff
Yeah.
too. I'll watch anything with a heist.
Oh, who doesn't love a heist?
Oh, it's the best. People are talking trash about American Hustle not being that good. And I was like, it's a heist. What else do you want?
Yeah.
It's just a heist where Christian Bale gets fat and wears a silly wig. What is more? What else can you love?
Right. And so, but the thing is sometimes it's hard to talk to anybody about movies who know too much about movies because they have too much information.
Right. Oh, it's just a Scorsese ripoff. Great. I wish there were more Scorsese movies.
Right. Stop ruining it. It's like Woody Allen standing in line at Annie Hall, I think it was. Yeah.
With Malcolm McLuhan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
But yeah, that's how I feel. Where it's one of my favorite music things is bands that sound like Springsteen. I mean, I love Springsteen.
Yeah.
But I love the Hold Steady Minneapolis band originally.
Oh yeah. I have one of their albums.
Yeah.
For no reason. I have one of almost everybody's albums.
That's so funny. I'm also a dabbler.
Yeah, I do. Well, I want to, because like people who are genuinely into bands and music and this stuff, they're completists sometimes. And I am just, I'll buy that fun album.
Yep.
And what's John Legend doing? And so I have several cool kid albums, but I don't have all of them.
No.
And I know the one song.
There are some bands that I feel like I got in at an early enough point that I have to buy all their albums now.
Oh, yeah, like Billy Joel. Hello. I'm 107.
Not the example I was going to use, but a great example nonetheless.
Sure. Well, you live here where they play Billy Joel all the time. Anyway, where you're
call it Billy Joel City.
It's a Billy Joel radio every place I'm going in. It doesn't even matter what the station is. There's going to be a Billy Joel song on an hour.
He's doing that residency at Madison Square Garden.
I know it. I totally want to go.
Once a month. Yeah.
It's been sold out every time, though, I'm told.
How long can that last? It's like once a month? Forever?
But what I like is that he didn't go, I'm going to go to Vegas.
No.
Like Barry Manilow. I live in Long Island. I'm going to do it here.
I'm going to just take a car into the city, play piano to 18,000 people in my home city once a month.
How cool. The thing is I like the carbon footprint better because, Barry Manilow flies home every night.
No.
Yeah.
Where does he fly to?
Palm Springs.
Palm Springs to
California.
Vegas.
Yeah. So just an hour flight, but it's a jet.
God.
It's jet fuel.
That's so funny.
It seems awesome, and yet you're like, why didn't you just do it and make people come to Palm Springs? Because people would.
For Manilow?
For Manilow?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I went to Vegas. I hate Vegas.
For Manilow.
For Manilow. That's why I went. Because it made me laugh. And here's a fun fact that I was told. Barry Manilow's safe word, apricot.
Really?
I don't know why I know that. I do know why I know that.
Every question about that. First of all, what's Barry Manilow getting into that he needs
a safe word?
Also, his safe word is such an old person safe word.
I think he was born an old person, though, wasn't he?
The safe word is prune.
There are fresh apricots. I don't know why I'm defending the apricot.
I guess they must be fresh at some point.
At some point, they're fresh.
Barry Manilow was once young.
Once he was young and vibrant.
I can't picture either of them unwrinkled. So bands that sound like Springsteen.
Yep.
Sorry. And then, and I'm just like, people are like, oh yeah, they're derivative of Springsteen. Yeah, who doesn't want more Springsteen records? Perfect.
Right.
And that's how I feel about American Hustle. Like, oh, it's so derivative. It's like, yeah, but it's derivative of the best
of
things.
Cool things, and they do it well, is what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been seriously busy watching some crap. Like I went and saw, I saw The Hobbit twice, the new Hobbit, and that was, and it's an action movie. It's not it's G.I. Joe, but fancy. So there's no reason for me to not call it crap just because it's Peter Jackson and it's epic. And Cumberbatch is in it.
There's a British accent on it.
Yeah, that does not fancy it up. I would still rather read the book, but it was a super fun movie. Yeah. And I saw it twice. And then prior to that, I haven't seen anything except for action movies. I think I saw it. I watched, and it was on television. I saw Monsters vs. Robots or whatever it was called.
Pacific Rim?
Yeah, Pacific Rim. And it was awesome. It was everything I wanted in a monster versus robot movie.
I feel like the Avengers, when it came out,
that is a film, my friend.
It was great.
It nailed it.
I think like the Dark Knight, I'm not a huge superhero guy.
Right.
I feel like the Dark Knight was like, we want to be a 10 and we're a 10. And then, this next Batman movie was like, we want to be a 10, and they were like a 7, like Dark Knight Rises, and wanting to be, but the Avengers was like, we want to be an 8, and they were the 10 of 8s.
They were an 11,
It was perfect.
Yeah.
It was it wasn't like we're going to be deep and weighty necessarily, but it was just a perfect, wonderful action movie
with super nice tiny character development. It's like comic books. Comic books can do that kind of character development that nobody expects, and it's amazing. Yeah. And you're like, oh, thank God.
It was great. And I feel like if they're like, we want to just be the most fun movie with believable
Yeah.
characters that grow, rather than being like, this is about chaos in the world, and you nail it. It's so much better because when something wants to be a 10
Yeah.
and is a 7, you're like,
You tried too hard,
it feels
buddy.
like you're being talked down to.
Yeah.
Where it's like, come on, you idiot. Like, we can't just destroy the stock market. We can't. Like, I get, the villains in Batman are supposed to be like, they have a point. But it's like, you don't have a point. Guy with a tooth mask.
With a tooth mask.
Knock it off.
Right. Okay, so now you have essentially you've sent me a list of your 4 kind of favorites,
Yeah,
right?
of Coen Brothers.
It's No Country for Old Men. I couldn't see that one either because it looked like my dad.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, oh man, and so what was that one about? Yeah, feel free to spoil it because I don't think I can ever see it, but it just reminded me of charming grifter kind of dude.
So it's like another tragedy,
Yeah.
like legit tragedy, where the story, the action centers around Josh Brolin finding this bag of money at like a huge drug deal gone wrong.
Yeah.
And him
Just
trying,
in passing? Like he
was
just happened to be
driving
there?
near it. Yeah.
Okay,
and
yeah,
then
but he
kind of-
wasn't in the-
He was hunting.
Okay.
And he was like, had binoculars. No, he was not part of the drug deal and just saw this like, I believe it's like buzzards circling a car, and he went over to look, and there was just this satchel of money, and he takes it, and it's like nominally it's a story of him trying to make off with this money,
Yeah.
while Javier Bardem's character is trying to catch him.
Right.
But really, it's the story of Tommy Lee Jones, who's the small town sheriff,
Yeah.
who's kind of lazily tracking this story and not trying super hard, and being just like a little past his prime, in the story about how his father kind of got ground down by law enforcement the same way. And
Wow.
and Josh Brolin's character, who you think the movie is about, right? You're like, this is going to be this story. Either he gets away with it, and there's a showdown. Like, that's how we're trained to watch movies.
Right.
And then he dies with like 15 minutes left. Major spoiler. I mean, I
Major
said it after,
spoiler.
so it doesn't, you said
Right.
spoil.
And
So
I
he
said
died.
spoil it.
And then you're like,
What the fuck?
right. You're like, what is this? What is this movie? And you have to like totally reorient. And it becomes this movie about, to me, the whole crux of it is like, good. It's so hard to be good. And
Oh, a decent person?
to be a decent person, and also like to fight for goodness. Like,
Okay.
what's things that are worth fighting for. It's so hard to do
right,
that forever,
right.
that someone like, it's not that good will always win against evil. It's that tenacity will always win against,
Because you just
giving
get
up.
tired.
Yeah. And that's what it's about. It's about No Country for Old Men. Like, this isn't like, is the world more evil, or did I just grow tired of fighting?
Am I just
for goodness?
exhausted?
Yeah. And I like, it's so brutal. And I think
Oh, that sounds terrifying to me.
it's so terrifying.
Because sometimes I get really exhausted, right? Because you're like, I am hitting my head against the right
Yeah.
door. That doesn't mean my fucking head doesn't hurt.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
what a great way to put that. If it's locked, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're waiting for someone to open
Right.
the door, or you have you forgot your keys, it doesn't matter
Right.
what door you're at.
Yeah.
You're still banging your head.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like a really sad, beautiful
It is a
movie.
sad and beautiful thing.
And I'm really drawn to art, not that's manipulatively sad, like I'm less
No.
sad love stories, I guess. Like, that's not a draw for me, but just tragedy.
Oh, like, yeah, tragedy done correctly, which is what it sounds like these are.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, just really well done, well crafted,
Mm-hmm.
and just so much empathy put into
Yeah.
the writing of this horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is like I used to do, and I'm trying to write this piece about my dad, and my dad drives me nuts.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad is a guy that is not particularly thoughtful, but he is not a bad guy.
Sure.
And he tries, but he forgets about other people.
Yeah.
Because he's busy thinking about himself. And we all are, but my father's really good at it. And, and so what I try to do, what that looks like they're doing, and allow me to compare myself to the Coen brothers, is that what I try to do is I try to find the love. You know, when I write about someone that's driving me up a fucking banana
Yeah.
tree. Like my brother Terry is an evangelist and is constantly praying for gay people and for the people who have premarital sex and is super judgmental against these people.
Double prayers for people having premarital gay sex.
Premarital gay sex. Why would you poke your penis in that thing? Or whatever. Why would you want to go down there, lady? And so, but it's so weird to me. I have to find why I still talk to him. And that I feel like they're like No, you don't have to find why you still talk to them. You just have to look at them and go, that is what people are like sometimes. They're just flawed. You don't have to like them. You don't have to dislike them. You just have to accept them.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, no, I can't just accept them. I have to find what I love about them. And so I can still talk to them.
I think, like, yes, I think that's really important. Like, I try, if you get into a fight with somebody, a friend or a significant other, I think it's really important to acknowledge that you're upset, but also, like, acknowledge the humanity of the other person, right, and what you like about them, and then who they are drove you two into this conflict.
Yeah. Because it wasn't, something happened.
Yes. It's usually not you're born a rotten person.
No.
And then you're that way till you die. And even, most people, I think, like, I had this discussion with my girlfriend about George W. Bush,
right,
where she's like, I think he's an evil person. And I was like, no, I think he's a person who felt like he was doing his best, but his priorities were misguided.
Yeah, I feel like he really wanted to be baseball commissioner, and we should have let him.
I wish they had.
Yeah, well, he could have broken baseball, and then he would have moved on, and someone would have fixed baseball, and it would not have affected so many people.
I know. Or maybe he could have fixed baseball. They couldn't have handled the steroids much worse than they did.
Here's my weird thing about Bush is that I think you're right. I don't think he's evil, and I think he's super charming, and I think he's super. Like, people are like, no, he's a great guy to hang out with and chat and all this stuff.
I wish I could attribute this quote, but I forget who said it, but it's brilliant. Someone said, George Bush's magic is people voted for him under the auspices of under the thought of, he's a guy that I could sit down and have a beer with. He's been sober for 30 years.
Right.
That's an amazing magic trick to pull.
Right.
To have people use that and he's a great guy to have a beer with. He doesn't drink beer.
Right. He doesn't drink. You'll have a beer and watch him have a non-alcoholic beer or a seltzer or whatever. Yeah.
And you're charmed by him. And I really think, there were corporate interests that got in the way, which I think is like a misguided priority. But I don't think this guy was like, I'm out to screw America. I think, he invaded Iraq under false pretenses because he thought it would be the best for the country.
He's pretty, I felt like he was genuinely gullible and he was being played by a lot of people.
I think probably played in a lot of ways, and probably just like kind of a victim of not a victim, but
I like how we're sort of, no, he's retarded. It's so sad. And,
he was a person with great power who felt like he was using it righteously, but his idea of righteousness was not. And
was misguided.
Ended up having, and I'm not saying that it was like water under the bridge.
Yeah.
To me, I'm like a pretty liberal twerp who lives in New York and grew up in New England.
I want you to be a twerk.
I'm a liberal twerk. It's just like I like
to dance.
I got a big butt and I'm into socialized healthcare. But yeah, I think, not to make it too political, but like that's how I feel. He thought he was like misguided righteousness, and I think that that's in a lot of ways more dangerous than malevolence.
Oh, very much so. And I think if you look at his life, he has misfired more often than not.
Yeah,
the guy wasn't good at anything, but he was a charmer in all things, and so I think he was put on a path that he was like, yeah, okay, all right, I'll try and do that. And you're like, dude, you aren't good at anything.
And it's hard.
It's like he was a stand-up comic that was doing it for 15 years and never got better at it. And
except people kept bumping him up.
Right, and you were just like, no, that guy's going to be a headliner. And you're like, but you're humping the stool. Why is that? And he's like, it's just, it's something to do, you know? And you're like, yes, it is something to do.
Yes.
Anyway.
I'm totally into it.
But I do think it makes me want to watch, and I've always wanted to watch these movies because I knew that they were well crafted, but it's the slice of life business. It's like all the Oprah books.
Yeah.
They're all slice of life, and I'm like, but they're sad slices of life.
Yeah, I can't do historical sadness. Like 12 Years a Slave doesn't appeal to me.
I wouldn't see 12 Years a Slave on a dare, man. Guess what happens? I bet you there's slavery for 12 years and it's unjust, even more so than regular slavery.
It's double bummer slavery.
Let's watch a double feature of that and Schindler's List.
And it's horrible. And I realize I just did the biggest white privilege thing of defending George Bush's misguided righteousness while refusing to see 12 Years a Slave. But
no. But you didn't support George Bush's righteousness either.
I don't support it.
No.
The same way as if there were a Kickstarter to make the movie 12 Years a Slave, if they're like, look, we got to make this really important movie and we don't have the funds, sure, $20 Kickstarter, take it.
Right.
But more than the price of a movie ticket.
I wouldn't kickstart that movie. I'd be like, why don't you not? And why don't you put that on the History Channel in between a cooking show? Have you ever seen a cooking show called Taste of History?
No.
Oh, it's horrible. It's wonderful. It's great. It's a PBS show.
I'll watch that.
Remember the Happy Tree guy, the guy who would paint?
Bob Ross?
Bob Ross. Okay. It's like that, but with a guy who cooks using cast iron around historical monuments.
Love it.
And then he's like, in the Civil War, people cooked over a cook stove, and so I'm going to make hardtack or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
And so it's awesome.
I'm into it.
Dumb and awesome. And because you're just like, the production values are very much the Bob Ross.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so it's very cheaply made, but super fun, and I want to make that chili now.
I like that. Yeah, and I just can't.
12 Years a Slave. Do that.
Right.
Mix it up with horrible collard greens and why it was made. Fatback was done because that was what was left over.
Yep. Historic. You're like, this is delicious, but it tastes of oppression.
It's right. It's the oppression food that was given to poor people, and they're like, well, I have to make it taste good because people are geniuses.
The matzah of the South. How did you get the worst oppression food?
Oh, but the thing is that my and talk about getting political. Here's what I lost a listener one time because I was talking about how I was in favor of socialized medicine, and he said, I know. No, I said I liked Acorn. I said Acorn was handed a bad rap because
Agreed.
Because it was, I've worked at nonprofits.
Yeah.
And nonprofits, everyone has their heart in the right place.
Yep.
But all the paperwork isn't always, and for 23 years, they help people fight their bad landlords and help people, pay their rent.
Yep.
And they got set up with the prostitution thing because they're just like, their hearts are in the right place. And you're like, but the paperwork isn't always on board. And so this guy was like, I stopped listening because those people are the worst. I said, you're going to have to link me. It was on Twitter. I was like, link me whatever you think you read. And he did. And he sent me, the criminal report from the state of California, and he sent me a Fox News thing, and he said, I sent you the second thing because the Fox News thing is suspect.
Yep.
And I said, I appreciate that entirely. And so I read the criminal report. He sent me a 23-page report, hoping no doubt that I would not read it.
Yep.
But I was like, no, this is actually fascinating. And they had, it was 2 or 3 incidences in over 30 years of what he called voter fraud.
My best friend worked Milwaukee. My college best friend, a Milwaukee native.
Hello.
Worked for Acorn in Boston for like longer than human. Like talk about getting burnt out. Like it was during Obama's campaign and first campaign.
Yeah.
Before they kind of tipped over. But like, I mean, their office was getting robbed, and he was just going door to door registering voters, people who like didn't know the resources to get registered.
Right.
And that to me is like good work, regardless of the problems. Yeah, nonprofits. A problem with nonprofits is that they're not run by business-minded people who are kicking business ass.
No, they are not.
Like, man, his work was so disheartening and so important, and I didn't know.
And he kept doing it.
He kept doing it about the larger structure.
Yeah, so why be all mean about it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say something political though. Oh, could have been anything. Turns out I'm an anarchic socialist. I want everyone to choose to share, but they don't, so we have to legislate some sharing.
Yeah.
And if you want to stop listening to the Dork Forest, because occasionally that comes out, so sad, too bad. That's my dorkdom. But it isn't. Okay, so we can leave on a happy one. Let's talk a little bit about a happy, the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Love Oh Brother, Where Art Thou.
Now, I have seen that twice because it happens to be Andy's, my husband's, favorite movie of the Coen brothers.
It's so perfect.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is. I always say this. If I have children, it will be the first adult entertainment that I provide for them to enjoy.
Really?
I really think that.
That's why the Coen brothers are your dorkdom, because it's your first go-to.
Yeah. Like, it's so the music is great, which everyone talks about.
Yeah.
It made me like George Clooney, which was a feat. It's just so, my own family, like my own immediate family, loves it and will quote it all, like, "We thought you was a toad." And I had Christmas dinner with my girlfriend's family.
Right.
And we were playing like a movie quotes game, and I was like, well, this will be a real test as to like whether these people are my people. And that was my quote. And my girlfriend's father jumped on it so fast, and I was like, great. This
Excellent.
Is like home.
Excellent.
Yeah.
This is a good guy.
It used to be, honestly, it used to be kind of the big Lebowski was like a cool measuring stick for like who's kind of a cool weirdo.
Yeah.
But that movie's been so bro-opted that like everyone likes it. But Oh Brother Where Art Thou, I feel like gets talked about less and is just such a perfect, wonderful movie. It's like a sweet story.
Yeah.
There's friendship. There's strife. There's John Goodman. It's like everything you want.
Right. It is, and it's country, and it's smart, and it's dumb, and some of my favorite comedies now, which is so funny because I've always been such a frickin' snob, is the silly, smart stuff that people are doing. Like, there's a lot of great. I don't know if you've seen Rory Scovel.
Oh my gosh, of course.
The guy is one of the silliest, smartest guys in the world. And Pete Holmes.
Pete Holmes is
and
great.
There's just a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And Erin Foley. I don't know if you've seen her.
I do know Erin Foley.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know of her, and I love
yeah,
her work.
and she's just, it's so, I mean, the way Bamford does it, the way Maria does silly, it's so parallel universe, silly, smart, that it doesn't feel silly. It feels alien and smart, where Erin Foley, you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Are you talking about pots and pans at length and in a weird tilted way?
I'll throw Nick Vatterott into that.
I don't know that guy.
Oh, he's wonderful.
Is he? With a V?
Yep.
I will link him in the notes.
Oh, he's so great.
Okay.
Excuse me, he just
Is he a New York guy?
Yes.
Okay.
I think started in Chicago, lives here. And his late night sets, he's done, I think, a couple of Coen sets and a Fallon set that are all, hopefully all available online. And he just does them like, there's always something unexpected and wonderful about them in a way that's like, I was just listening to a previous Dork Forest where you talked about how you would be lost the way Andy Kaufman alienated audiences. And this I feel like is an outside the box thing that brings audiences together rather than pushes them apart from the performer. Which is
what I genuinely love about a lot of that stuff.
It's so great.
And Oh Brother Where Art Thou is exactly that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this is so silly and so unlikely. And yet, again, with the Coen brothers, I feel like, no, I think that guy really exists.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, there's that gag of them kind of fall like early on where they're still chained together and I think they're getting on the train, right, and they keep falling because they're chained together or like running through the wheat and then there's also like just it's really tender the relationship, like George Clooney trying to get back together
with his wife and kid.
He's bona fide, and it's like I don't know, I feel like they're real people with real motivations.
Even
though
the frog.
they're dumb.
Even the guy who's in love with the frog, or who's like, that frog is a reincarnation of something.
Yeah, he thinks he's the other guy because he disappears.
Right.
And we thought you was a toad. And then John Goodman crushes the frog, and they're like, you feel for them because they think it's
that guy.
The other guy.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like, no, I could see, because I mean, I know a lot of crazy animal people who are like, no, it's my friend Karen Rotowski talks to pet psychics to find out how her dog is feeling, and because her friend is a pet psychic. Okay, I believe she is not paying.
Okay, pro bono pet psychic.
And I don't wish to really crap on anybody's belief system, but I know people who believe these things about, and I love animals, so you're like, no, don't crush the fucking toad. Yeah. There's no reason for that.
Right. Oh yeah, it was so awful. It was such an inhumane thing to do.
Right. It didn't make any sense to me. I was like, now you've crossed a line to no reason. Yeah. And so, but such a great movie.
So great.
And so beautifully wrapped up. You know, and that is another thing that they do. Yeah, I said do. Is the way they end a movie is so clean.
Yep.
Where people's lives continue on, you know.
Yeah.
Oh,
I always have such a problem when movies or TV shows act like everything's okay. Like in the end, we're like, here are glaring flaws that were just ignored, not like plot holes,
right?
But like, a couple breaks up and then because of some deception to get them back together, they get back together and you're like, this lie is gonna come up.
Right.
Like I've gotten in week-long fights about I'll be back in half an hour.
Right.
Like, how are you going to get over?
How are you going to wrap this up? But I'll tell you something. What I do like, some of my favorite romantic comedies will have the end 2 weeks notice. Is a wonderful, terrible movie with
that Sandra Bullock
and Hugh Grant. Yes, and at the end of it, she's a mess, right? She's always a mess in every film that she is in because she is obviously super wound.
Yep.
And at the end of the movie, and he's a mess because he's a fabulously wealthy guy who doesn't have any expectations about him. So, but at the end of it, they get together, but you feel like, oh, they will still be. They'll be working on this. Yeah, they will be working on this together.
Were you did you watch Breaking Bad?
The first 3 seasons, and then I realized that this was not going to end well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another.
With the girlfriend, when Jesse's girlfriend was when there was trouble, because when he got the girlfriend, I was like, oh, maybe he'll sober up and become a good. And I was like, season 3.
My girlfriend is watching it now, and she was like, we were talking about it. She goes, "Oh, Jesse has a girlfriend. He needs that." And I was like, "Ugh."
Yes, he does, and I am sorry.
I felt like that series, and I don't want to say anything too specific.
Right, if people still haven't seen it. It seems new. Like, you can ruin things like a movie that's 37 years old.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry, Rosebud is a...
Yeah. Is a sled.
Right.
Let's complete that.
Yeah.
My girlfriend, or not my girlfriend, Breaking Bad ended, and people said it ended too neatly. But I think, to me, what people aren't acknowledging is that everything is still horrible. We just didn't see
the next hour.
Because because if there were one more episode, like after the finale, it would just be about how everyone's life is still terrible.
Right. And the thing is even when you make a step in the right direction, right? It doesn't fix your life.
Yeah.
But make the step in the right direction because you're in the right direction.
Yeah.
You're facing the correct way.
Better than not that.
Yeah.
You can't just do...
Right. You have to fix the rubble. You have to still clear away the rubble.
Yeah.
But at least you're pointed in the right damn direction.
Absolutely.
That's hilarious. And, so, yeah, I have to, Raising Arizona.
That's another delightful Coen brothers.
Yeah. That's more of, that was a lighter one too. And it was but it resonated. I remember I saw that one in the theater. And it was before, I think I need to see them alone because I tend to do laps when things get tense.
Oh, yeah.
And so the middle of Fargo, I got up and walked out.
So tense.
Yeah, I had to get up and walk out, where if I watched it on television, if I watched it on a DVD, I could get up and do a lap and play some Crystal Clutch, or, I could play some sort of video game to diffuse the tension.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Coen brothers are not pleased to find out that I am.
No, but I think that speaks to the
power
of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, they're just doing a great job. But I remember sitting at Raising Arizona, loving it and hating it.
Yep.
And going, aw.
Yeah. Definitely. There's still like that tension and that desperation, even in the really light comedies.
Yeah.
I will do that with books. Like, I remember, cause a book will get too visceral or too, I'll get to the part where I think it's emotionally about to nosedive.
Yeah.
And I'll just put it down for weeks. Like I was on the plane, I was on a plane about a week ago, and I was reading Eleanor and Park, which is like a critically acclaimed young adult book by Rainbow Rowell. I don't know how to pronounce
Rainbow
her
Rowell?
Yeah.
That's an awesome name.
Yeah, she's really cool. We're Twitter acquainted, so I was like, I should purchase and read her book because it is beloved. So I did, and I read the first third of it just on the plane. It just burned through it, and then I was like, I feel like I'm at the part where it's about to dip. And
Right.
I was like, I can't handle this in the sky right now. Right. So I put it down and then got so busy that, and now it's so daunting because now I have to pick it back up and read through the sadness.
Well, I read, I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I was reading, Havana Nocturne is the name of this book. And it's a book about, the mob trying to take over Cuba in the 50s. And it was Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky.
Okay.
And they want to make a Vegas, Rio de Janeiro, not Rio de Janeiro. What's the one in France? Monte Carlo. Yeah, they wanted to make a Monte Carlo in Cuba. And so they do. And Batista is in their pocket and he's getting a lot of graft and everybody's making money hand over fist. And Meyer Lansky's dream is that this happens. And I know Castro's coming.
Oh, yeah.
You know, pad. Here comes Castro.
Yep.
And Castro would like all of the money. He doesn't want to share it with the American mob, it turns out. And, and he also, and trappings of capitalism are also not what he's looking for. So please hide your gambling again. Yeah. And so, I could only read it in like 20-minute chunks. Because Meyer Lansky got he was so mad at himself that he became very angry that he wasn't respected like Rockefeller and Carnegie. Oh, sure. Because he's like, no, I am providing jobs and those guys were thugs. Why am I not? Yeah. And you're like, because they started foundations and libraries. You started Vegas.
Right. That's totally a huge difference.
But I felt bad for him.
Even the Kennedys made that leap.
Right. You got to make the leap. You got to make some sort of waspy leap. Yep. Where all of a sudden you got to do this thing. And I know they were Catholics, but they pretended. Yeah. And
right.
Yeah.
They were so good at the waspy leap that
you didn't even know they weren't waspies. Yeah. So guess what we didn't talk about?
We didn't talk about rap
hip hop. We didn't talk about rap at all.
That's okay.
But I like that you recommended a young adult title.
I did.
And does it? Is it a nice book in the end?
I haven't got there yet.
Oh, that's right. You're still
a week ago.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's well written and it's
really
fun.
well written and it's really fun.
And it's critically acclaimed. And what's the name of it again?
It's called Eleanor and Park.
Eleanor and Park. I just got an email from a guy who asked me to read his book, and it was 99 cents on Kindle, and so I bought it, and so I just started that, and it looks good. And I also want to play a card game called Friday. So those are my plugs for the week.
Terrific.
But that was Rich Sumner from Mad Men. He plays one of the, and he was on the show earlier. He was on the Dork Forest talking about board games. And it's a solo, he loves to play solo board games because his wife doesn't like to play board games or card games, and his kids are too little. So Friday is based on Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay. And Friday. Oh, right. So Rangers of the Dork Forest, you have been listening to the Dork Forest, which is awesome, with Josh Gondelman. And it's at Josh Gondelman on Twitter, and it's joshgondelman.com. And Gondelman is actually spelled like Gondelman. So you can do it.
It's exactly phonetic.
It's exactly phonetic. And then go and see you when you do stand-up comedy. Are you going to be anywhere cool in February that people?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to be at very beginning of February. I'll be at Sketchfest, so the very end of January, very beginning of February in San Francisco. Okay. And then I'm going back to LA, or going to LA for a couple days. Okay. Doing
a bunch of shows in LA and stuff. Yes. Check your website, check your Twitter feed.
I'm on the road a lot.
I'm at Sketchfest as well, January 30th.
Oh, cool. I think we're doing,
Put Your Hands Together.
Put Your Hands Together and competitive erotic fan fiction.
Which is
such a fun show.
That is very fun. And, I was going to write, a startup tech pitch, because it's San Francisco. Yeah. I was going to write, erotic fan fiction for a startup tech pitch, but, I don't know that I can, because I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation and it's a podcast. Oh, sure. And he's like, that's a visual media. And I was like, but it was going to be super, but now I don't know what I'm going to write. But
I'm doing two. I'm doing competitive erotic science fiction.
Oh, are you going to do the sci-fi one too?
I'm doing the sci-fi one as well. And I'm doing pre-writing because I'm not a huge sci-fi buff. Yep. So I'm doing Quantum Leap.
Scott Bakula, which rhymes with butt cracula. I don't know if you've ever thought of that.
Now it's all I'll think of.
Right. So San Francisco at the end of the month of January, and then LA the first week of February.
Yeah, and then I'm doing I'm on the road a little bit. I think I'm doing Helium in Buffalo and Philly at the end of February.
That's neat.
Yeah. And then one more. Oh, and then South by Southwest in March.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, go see Josh Gondelman. Thanks for tuning in, and take care out there. Bye. All right. That was great. Thanks so much for listening to the show, you guys. The bonus content, which is Andy and I discussing the show, is available on the apps, the Libsyn sold apps. For some reason, Libsyn is also just posting it for free, so you don't have to buy the app. You can just go to tdf.libsyn.com if you're just downloading it to your iTunes and putting it on some other app to listen to all of the different podcasts that you listen to. So if you want to listen to the bonus content, just go to tdf.libsyn.com, or you can buy the app if you want. And you can also just go to iTunes, by the way, and review the show. iTunes supposedly cares about that. So if you're enjoying the show, and I read them, and that's great. And if you ever want to email me, Jackie@JackieCation.com. The credits, of course. Patrick Brady's going to fix this audio. Thank you, Patrick. Mike Rickberg composed and sang the intro song. He's going to sing the Mexican hat dance right here in a moment. And Vilmos fixes the website, JackieCation.com, where, by the way, there is a donation button, JackieCation.com and DorkForest.com. Feel free to donate. I'd love everyone to give me $100 a year. That is $8.33 a month. I have not figured out a way to make that easy for you. You would have to remember that, or you can just throw me some money. If you don't have any money, that's fine as well. But feel free to talk up the show. And if you would like merch, if you'd like a Dork Forest t-shirt or a CD of my stand-up comedy, or would like to know where I'm doing stand-up, go to JackieCation.com and hook yourself up. There's also an Amazon banner if you want to, or if you ever order from Amazon, and we all do, go through JackieCation.com and the Amazon banner. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. See you next week.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?